everybody, Keith Hilson at the Trombone Shop at Schmidt Music. So, I've got another Shires review for us here. We're still going through some of the horns that we brought back from ITF 2019, and the one that I've been getting the most questions about since ITF has been about the twin valve here. So, just as a refresher, the twin valve is a design that Steve Shires and S.E. Shires developed starting a couple years ago, a completely different approach to the rotor system and how we route the air through the valves there. Instead of using one valve to route the air through two different directions, we're using two different valves. So I'm going to take a play on this so you can hear this in action here. The rest of the setup is a very standard Shires setup, 7Y lightweight bell, TB47 hand slide, and I'm going to be playing this on a Schilke 51. So take a listen and then we'll do some talking. So one of the things that I love about the trombone world right now, what's going on in it, is there is so much innovation. There are so many people who are thinking about, why do we do things the way we do? Are there opportunities to do things in different ways? The twin valve is a perfect example of this. So the whole thought process is, Steve Shires and S.E. Shires started looking at valves, how they work, and the thought was, okay, we've got our standard rotor. With our standard rotor, we have two different ports that route the air. When we're fully utilizing it to take it through the F attachment, you have one port that's routing the air one direction, and then the other port in the valve that routes it the other way. And so because of that, unless we make the valve huge, which of course people have done, there's only so much that you can do with how the air moves through. And so much of the development we've seen with valves the last 40, 50 years has been trying to find different ways to maximize this air movement. But it's always been with one valve. Do we make the valve bigger, smaller? Do we do all these different things with it to try to maximize that space and that airflow? And so Shires looked at this and said, well, why do we have to have one valve do the work? Why don't we have two valves? So the whole idea with the twin valve is that even though it's quite a bit smaller, it's actually a lot more open because it's only ever routing the air one direction. So When we're not touching anything, the air is just coming straight through here. So it has a lot of the movement like we see with the standard rotor, but it's significantly more open inside. When we rotate, then we've got the one lever here, and it's a very clever setup here. String linkage, which, by the way, I'm kind of a fan of. My first horn was an old Con 88H that had the string linkage, and there is a different feel to it, which is kind of nice. So we've got the lever here, so when we press down the paddle, it activates both valves with the string linkage here. So now the air is coming through one and coming back using the Minix style wrap here, then coming back up through the other. So again, even though these are significantly smaller than even most standard rotors, they really are about the size of like a French horn rotor, they have enough room where it doesn't feel constricted at all. And in fact, one of the things that really amazes me, and I think has gotten a lot of people really intrigued about this valve, is it's one of the most efficient and responsive valves I've ever played. There's something, and hopefully it came through in the recording, when I'm playing this valve, it is so easy to get that perfect, what I can view kind of as a perfect classical entrance, where it's not super poppy and sharp, and it's not really dull and heavy. It's just that perfect balance of weight and sound. Boom. And that's what this valve does just so naturally. The other thing that gets me with this right away is just how stable it is. As soon as you play the note, it is completely locked in. It doesn't move around at all. And like I said, it feels really efficient. In a lot of ways, I feel like this kind of reminds me a little bit of like the Edwards T396A, the Alessi model, in that you have to be, I think you have to approach it a little bit differently because it is using the air so efficiently. There have been times that I've done some more playing with this valve than just the video, and there are times I catch myself overplaying the valve. I'm used to pumping more air in, either because it's a bigger valve that needs more air, or it's a smaller valve, or a standard rotor, but I need to be moving the air a little bit faster to get it through, to get the response the way that I want. With this valve, if I'm moving that air too fast, then sound just starts getting really bright. It gets bright, edgy. The stability actually goes away a little bit. But if I slow it back a little bit and let the valve do a little bit more of the work, it's amazing how things open up, and again, just how beautifully consistent the response is. Now, because of that, one of the things that this valve does not do quite as well as some others is get a real pointed front to the articulation. I went through and really tried to get some sharp enunciations on the front of the note, and this just, for me, right away anyway, just did not do that as well. Now, there might be a couple things going on with this. Like I mentioned at the beginning, this does have the TB47 hand slide on it right now, so this is the 547 bore with the 562 bass crook on it, and that I could see that potentially affecting that articulation a little bit. I actually don't have a TW47 547 with the standard 547 crook. I don't have that in the shop right now to compare, so it'd be interesting to see how that works with it. But I do think, again, just knowing how the valve works, I do think that it's not necessarily going to, at least for some people, give that real immediacy to it. But frankly, there are not a whole lot of times where you need to have that poppy a front to the note. We're not really looking for that in any setting where this is very often going to be used. So I don't see that being a big hindrance at all. And the other thing I found, again, just with this overall setup, it did get just a little bit bright for me at times. And again, it had a lot of nice breath to it, but when I was going through and playing the Wagner and playing the Berlioz, it did, I felt like it didn't compact down, but it did get just a touch strident to it. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, again, because I think it had a lot of core to it, but depending on the player, I could see balancing this out with a little bit with maybe even like a gold brass tuning slide, maybe going like a gold brass bell. I think there are different things you could do to help give just a little bit more mid-frequency to it without losing all of the other great stuff going on with the valve there. So, hope you enjoyed getting to hear the twin valve in action here a little bit. If you have any questions about the valve, if you have any thoughts, if you've had a chance to try it out, feel free to leave those comments below here. If you like the video, consider giving it a thumbs up. If you haven't already done so, we'd love for you to subscribe to our channel. We're always trying to create new, fresh content for you. And as always, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So thanks very much, everybody.